Hello, beautiful people. It is Friday, May 27th, 2022. I know that everyone has a long holiday weekend coming up, but I just felt really pushed today to clarify the best that I can our timeline. I hear a lot of quote unquote truthers talking about, we're going to defeat the cabal. We're going to go into the 1,000 years of peace. Well, that's not accurate. I hear mention of the apocalypse and different things, but I'm going to try to illustrate the best I can. But at the end of the day, this is my opinion based on actual events. There is 10% that we know is true that's in the Bible, and the things that I'm showing you are what some of the passages that I think are true. Given that the information has always been inverted by the devil, you do have to kind of read between the lines and use your discernment. And part of how I discern is I use cards. I use oracle cards of the light, and I use Lightseerstarot cards. So I cleanse my cards. I only speak to my higher self. I do not access anyone else's higher self. I speak directly to source, and the card hygiene is very, very clean. It's very good. And I make sure that nothing comes in that's from the dark or shadow side. So take it with a grain of salt. It works for me. I definitely feel closer to source that way. And they're just divination tools. And so anyway, this is the message that I was pushed to get out to you. So hopefully we can clear up some timeline confusion that's definitely in our community. So what I have on the screen is Revelations 20, 7 through 10 from KJV. And starting with 7, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison and shall go to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is at the sand of the sea. And they went up upon the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about and the beloved city. And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. So when we speak about the timeline, again, my opinion, Revelation is one of the books in the Bible that has more truth to it based on events that I personally have lived through than I think a lot of the other books. From my own research and putting pieces together, it looks like the Bible was actually written in the late 1700s. And when I say that, I mean the version that was edited and Luciferian messages put in there. Late 1700s, mid to late 1700s. Atlantis was being basically manipulated the same way that we are now. The earth and its people have gone from dark to light 6 times. Dark to light, dark to light, dark to light. Each time, all of the inhabitants of Earth were removed and population started anew. We are in the 7th time, and we look like we're going to win. We look like we're going to ascend with the planet, and that is a completely different ending than we've ever had before. Atlantis, the elites started to harness more energy, and the division, the balance of power was no longer equal. And so other things was happening, and as the energy balance got way high on the elites and way low on everyone else, Atlantis was destroyed. Atlantis fell. Atlantis fell a little over 1,100 years ago. So closer than I think a lot of people appreciate. But that was the apocalypse. That was the apocalypse. Divination has answered that several times. That was the apocalypse. Okay. What followed that was the 1,000 years of peace. The devil and his people were in prison for those 1,000 years. So there was not a lot of events happening that were negative. There were no wars. They had lots of inventions. That Tartaria is very real, and that is what was able to be produced. People were able to live wonderful lives for 1,000 years during Tartaria. God and Lucifer contracted, basically, that the dark side would be underground and away from God's people, good God, for 1,000 years. And then Lucifer would come back, and his people would come back for their last reign of 150-ish years. So the timeline for that was right around the mid-1700s. Same time that the Bible that we learned from, the KJV and all that version, was put out to us. So it's definitely, I think, a part in history that was intentionally kept from us, because, again, for us to know the truth meant that knowledge is power, and they don't want us to have any knowledge that would give us power. Okay. They want us constantly buying into the falsehood that they have created for our lives, that keeps them safe and keeps them with money, and us, struggling to live, and some of us not making it that far. So the next passage I'll bring to your attention is Revelation 21, verse 3. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, "Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God." So for the last 150 plus years, the God of the earth has been Lucifer. The God of the Bible is Lucifer. The Bible has been used to spell cast in Latin language. Latin is a Luciferian language. It is no mystery that is why medicine, pharmacy, education uses the Latin language. Law. All the things that are definitely not for our greatest good. And we know that now. We used to not, and now we know. The real Bible's locked up at the Vatican. Shocker, right? We hope and pray that it was part of the things that was able to be recovered from the Vatican whenever when I say we, I mean the military, was able to go and perform that mission. But obviously we don't have it yet. Tartaria ended after 1,000 years with the mud flood. This is something that you can definitely see. So this is St. Petersburg, Russia in the 1800s. You can see the magnificent architecture here for the 1800s. This was because during the 1,000 years of peace, they were able to have higher consciousness. They were able to elevate humanity, and they were able to tap into many and develop many higher technologies. But you can see that they still had mud roads, right? Okay, so this is super interesting to me. San Francisco, 1846, 1847. There's hardly anybody there, right? Well, allegedly, San Francisco during that time had less than 500 people, mostly Mormons. 500 people, not 500,000, 500. Because, you know, they migrated from east to west and whatnot. So then they would have us believe that from 1846 to, with less than 500 Mormons, to 1877, they were able to go from that to that. Now that's a different part of the city, granted, but still. In 31 years, they were able to build all of these. And what tools did they use? I mean, this is like horse and buggy time, right? So there's definitely more happening here than, obviously, than what they told us, which is not a shocker, right? Still, though, horse and buggy, clearly you can see it. And outside of the sidewalk, it's mud. Mud. So we can make 4-story ornate sculptures, clock towers. I mean, we'd be hard pressed to get that done today. And all the other buildings around it in 31 years. But that's what they say happened. That's what they try to say actually happened in our history. And I just don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. These buildings were built during Tartaria, and what we're seeing right now in these pictures in the 1870s is, why do we have all this mud around there? Why do we have these windows that are right level to the ground? It's because of the mud flood that ended Tartaria, wiped the people off the planet, and lives where people were reintroduced to Earth in the mid 1700s. But they left many of the buildings of Tartaria to be used later under lies, under stories and things that they literally just made up. So Lucifer and all his minions, all the people that have given their soul to the devil and worked for the dark side, or works for their self, in service of self, not in service of others. That's all the folks that have been in charge, right? You'd say that. It's obvious. If they weren't in charge, we wouldn't be where we are today, dealing with what we're dealing with today. So what we're going through is the Gog and Magog. That's what we're living through right now. Gog and Magog ends in Ascension. It can't be that we have the 1,000 years of peace coming up, because that doesn't end with Ascension. That ends with Lucifer coming back and his minions ruling the earth for 150 plus years. When the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of prison. That's not ascension. So we are in Gog and Magog right now. So the timeline is Atlantis, it fell. Tribulation and Tartaria for 1,000 years of peace. Gog and Magog for 150 plus years, middle 1700s to right now. And then Ascension. Now, I'm going to touch on Ascension. I'll probably end up doing a show about just kind of explaining some things about that because it does confuse people. So the Earth is 3D, has been 3D. That's 3 density. Okay, it's matter. It's heavy. It's a heavy planet. In the cosmos, they speak about Earth being the hardest planet to live on because it's so heavy, it's so dense. Now, our consciousness has been 3-dimensional as well. Some people in 4, but mostly 3. What our planet is ascending to is 4th density. So we are lightening our load. Okay. Those that pull in a 4D planet, you polar positive or you polarize negative. You can't have it. You can't have any gray area. That's why we keep saying now's the time to pick a side. Now, the way that the Cassiopeans explain it is you can be 51% in service of others and 49% in service of self, and you're still going to polarize positive. So you could literally be a douche that's very selfish 49% of the time, but that 51% is going to push you over to the positive and you polarize positive. And that enables you to learn, continue to be with us, and ascend and continue to elevate your consciousness. You have to be 99% in service of self to polarize negative. So you have to be always looking out for only you and not doing anything for anyone else in your whole life, basically, to polarize negative. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't people out there that live their life that way, but it does give me hope because there's people in my circle that I feel like are that 49% example. And I'm certainly not perfect, not by any means, don't pretend to be. But I've tried to live, a life in service of others. And so I definitely feel like that percentage would be a little higher for me. But I worried about how that got determined. And anyway, that's what I have ascertained from the Cassiopean board, which is available online. So Atlantis, Tartaria, Gog and Magog, which is us right now, and then Ascension. So when our goal for Ascension is consciously to elevate to 4th and 5th dimension consciousness. But our planet, Gaia, is going from 3D to 4D density. So the planet can't go to 5 density because she would explode. I mean, this is a very arduous process. And she needs our help and support in continuing to move in the positive direction. But she's going to get there if she hasn't already. And we have to meet her. So we can't exist as 3-dimensional consciousness on a 4 density planet. It's not possible. That's why people say the end is not for everybody. Some people are going to leave the earth plane because they can't tolerate the changes. Some people are going to leave the earth plane because they're not good. And some people will leave the earth plane because they will take their own life because they can't wrap their mind around the truth, the disclosures that's coming out and that will continue to come out. When they decided to lie to us about our entire lives, they really knew that in the end, it was going to end up taking people from us. Now I want to address one more thing. So many of the truthers in our community, truther community, they like to talk about this 1,000 years of peace. Oh, we got 1,000 years of peace coming up. We're going to win so we can have 1,000 years of peace. No, not right. Not correct. So I've explained that. But I will also mention Q has said that 90% of truthers are for the dark side. They have infiltrators. They have handlers. They have people that they answer to that are not of the light. They are not good intentioned, and they are not in service of others. They are in service of self. All the things that we said you can't be to polarize positive and continue on this wonderful journey with us. Infiltrators like to sell the false timeline to keep us in false hope for 1,000 years of peace. But that ends with Lucifer coming back. And that is the narrative that they want to push forward. One second. Revelations 2:10. Let's see. I don't know if I have that one pulled up, but I can find it. There we go. Do not be afraid of what you are about to suffer. I tell you, the devil will put some of you in prison to test you. You will suffer persecution for 10 days. Be faithful, even to the point of death, and I will give you life as your victor's crown. 10 days of persecution. What does that sound like? Fear none of the things that which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that he may tried and be tried, and you shall have tribulation for 10 days. Thou shalt be faithful until death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Different version, same verse, same chapter. So many truthers are they are being managed by handlers of the dark side and doing their bidding and saying what they're being told to say. And they keep us on a loop of misinformation. They keep us hoping for something that they know is not going to happen, but they do it anyway because they're getting paid off. There's some sort of payoff there. It may not be actual money, but there's something that they're getting out of it. So they will be tried. They will have to answer for their crimes. And I'm just asking you again to be careful who you follow and be careful who you listen to. And you may have that same feeling about me. I have no agenda. I am a normal, patriotic person. I swore an oath to defend my country against all enemies, foreign and domestic, in 1991. And while I'm not active duty anymore, I still hold that oath near and dear to my heart. I have always worked as an empath in empath positions in healthcare. And now I've been called to help on this front, and that is just help people prepare for disclosures so they have some inkling of what the truth really is. You have some time to come to terms with it, and you're more prepared than maybe your neighbors down the street or even people in your own family. You can take with, from these talks what resonates with you and leave the rest behind. I am simply trying to impart to you that there's truth, and then there's truthers. And I don't pretend to be a truther. I don't call myself a truther. I'm not labeling myself like that at all. I am Nicole LeBlanc, and I'm here to help you. Thanks, guys. I hope you have a great weekend and enjoy the holiday. And remember what it's about, and stay safe.